This is the Dynasty Roundtable podcast. Thank you for clicking on the video, downloading the podcast. Tonight, we are doing an extension of what we talked about last episode. If you did not tune into our last episode and you are rebuilding Dynasty Team, I highly suggest you go back and listen to that one. That was more of a strategy episode. It was about 40-ish minutes long, outlining pretty much exactly how we would go about a rebuild if things just didn't go your way this season for whatever reason. Maybe you have Malik Nabers, Joe Burrow, Amari Hampton, some of these other guys, who knows? Go watch that episode. Go listen to it, download it, go click like, subscribe. If you haven't already, subscribe to the channel, because tonight we're going to be talking about more specific trades that we think you can make right now. So these are dynasty moves that you should make right now, both for contending teams and rebuilding teams. We're going to try to split it up 50-50, and we'll timestamp everything so you can jump around if you're watching on the YouTube or the podcast. We'll timestamp the podcast as well. But Matt Babish, before we get into that, how the hell are you doing tonight?
So I'll describe it by giving you a quote from one Haley Steinfeld before the season.
All right.
For those of you who don't know, actress Josh Allen's wife. Are they married? They're engaged for sure. I'm not sure. I can't remember if they got married yet.
Yeah,
Seth
we don't want to
will
spread
fact check that.
fake
But
news
she
here.
said the 4 teams in the AFC East were the Bills and the Bills' 3 sons. And I woke up this morning to the Patriots, my Patriots, leading the AFC East. So, Seth, there is, short of the world ending today, and even that, we technically would go down as AFC division champions. Not much can bring me down today. Because every week I come on this podcast, I have bigger and bigger feelings for Drake May. And this week's Jersey Spotlight, Kendrick Bourne. It's been fun seeing him connect with Mac Jones again and really lighting it up with the opportunity in San Francisco. So he deserved it last week, and he went out and put out 142 receiving yards. Another insane game from Kendrick Bourne. So he gets the Jersey Spotlight this week.
Nice.
They are married. All right. Thank you, Seth.
Yeah, they are married in 2025 this year. So good for them. Hope those kids can make it. Maybe they can last. That's not a fair comparison. I was going to say, like, who lasts longer, Taylor Swift and Kelsey, or Steinfeld?
Oh, Steinfeld and Allen for sure. If either of those two couples are to break up. Actually, I don't know, because Haley Steinfeld has never made a movie about Josh Allen's wiener, but Taylor Swift has made a song about Travis Kelce's. So
what's the name of the song?
I can't remember what the name of the song is. I do not really like Taylor Swift's music. She's got a few of the bops from back in the day that I like, but I heard a lot about the song. I did not look at the song. I didn't listen to the song, so I don't even remember what the title is. But it's been the talk of the town. There's even the Kelceys talked about it on their New Heights podcast.
Wow. I'm not gonna lie to you. My wife, the new album came out, and we were in the car. We had like a 30-minute drive, and my wife put on some Taylor Swift. I'll just say this: I have not listened to Taylor Swift. I don't listen to Taylor Swift at all. And I have to be honest with you, I found all the songs that she played very repetitive and very below average, I would say. Even for
I didn't hear great things online about it. What people said is it is kind of different, which for better or for worse, I do appreciate when artists try something different. But the song, Seth, if I gave you a guess, you'd probably be pretty close, because the song is called Wood. So,
whoa, all right. It's not about lumberjacks in the forest, I don't think.
It is not about lumberjacks in the forest, no.
All right.
No. And then shockingly, Travis Kelce comes out the week after this album comes out with all the juice in the world, and has the best looking game that he's had in quite some time. So clearly someone's motivated by the public reception he's been getting.
Yeah, well, let us know what you think of all that in the comments. not necessarily. If you're still with us, hopefully you are. But let me also say something too, just before we get into our topic, because I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I am the mysterious man behind the scenes at Fantasy Pros when they're doing some of their shows, some of their live streams. And I did a little research for them today, and I'm going to make Matt Babbage very happy right now because did you know, Matt Babbage, that the remaining schedule for the New England Patriots is about as easy as it gets? Did you know specifically that the record for their remaining opponents combined is 20-45? Now, they do play the Jets twice, so the Jets are 0-6, so they play them twice, so that helps out quite a bit. But the only teams with a winning record that they have remaining on their schedule are the Buccaneers, Falcons, and Bills. One more time, or they have not played. Yes, they have played the Bills, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So yeah, they have the Bills one more time. Yeah, that's right. How could I forget that?
2 straight losses for the Bills. That's something
they might
funky's
be
going on in Buffalo. Their defense is bad. Oh, their defense is very bad.
It's almost like they're just built around Josh Allen and nobody else. I mean, they don't really have a pass catcher that scares you. They don't really have like a pass rusher that scares you. I don't know. I think it's kind of a flawed team. But anyway, should we get into our topic tonight? And that would be specific trade targets in Dynasty. And we are going to start for rebuilding teams, kind of taking on the theme of last show. And I'm going to kick this off with a bang because normally, and I think this is true, normally I would tell you, okay, you want to tear down as much as possible. You want to gain as much value as you can. You want to get into some younger assets, and we'll talk about some of those younger assets here. But I want to ask about 2 players specifically because one of these players I saw absolutely no trades for in the trade analyzer via Player Profiler or the Trade Finder. And then the other player, I found just a ton of trades, and I found this very interesting. And those 2 players would be Malik Nabers and Joe Burrow. Now, both of these players are pretty much out for the fantasy season. We know Malik Nabers is out, torn ACL. Joe Burrow dealing with a toe injury, gruesome. It's likely going to keep him out for, if not the whole season, pretty much all of the fantasy season. So trading for injured players. Now, it's tricky, but I think you can do it if and only if you get a discount. And that discount has to be pretty significant. And I don't know about you, and really, it's hard to really break down what's fair. We could just, we could go line by line if we wanted to, but it really depends on the league. And I know that's frustrating to hear for a lot of people, but like I saw trades where, people were trading away Joe Burrow for Dak Prescott plus. And in that case, I'm going, man, I love Dak Prescott. And to be honest with you, the way Dak Prescott, and we'll probably talk about Dak Prescott here in a little bit, the way Dak Prescott is set up this year, I mean, maybe that could pay off in a big way for a contending team, but it seems like a steep price to pay. Other trades are like, they're giving up way too much, in my opinion. But what do you think? Like, I think that I would be in the right circumstances. You could convince me to make a trade, even though I'm a rebuilding team, for an elite asset like a Malik Nabers or a Joe Burrow. But I have to, like, the one thing that you have to do as a rebuilding team is you have to gain value because you're missing out on the production right now. That is a tricky thing. But if, again, the trade that I saw on the trade analyzer was basically, I think it might have been Dak Prescott and DJ Moore for Joe Burrow. And that is just a smash accept on the Joe Burrow side, in my opinion. But what do you think, man?
Yeah, so zooming out a bit into the broad topic of trading for injured players, I think there's a time where you don't necessarily need a significant discount, and that's when it's not like an elite asset. So, like, let's say, God forbid, it's because I can't think of anyone on the spot, so I'm going to say Luther Burden, knock on wood, just because he's a guy we're going to talk about today. If he had a season-ending injury right now, like, he's a guy for a rebuilding team I'd be out to go and acquire. Like, Braylon Allen has like an 8 to 12 week MCL sprain, like that type of injury for Luther Burden, where it's not necessarily going to go into next year. You don't have to play that game. that I'm all good with for a rebuilding team. If you're acquiring a youthful asset that just is going to be missing time, then I'm okay with that because you're kind of already scratching this year anyway. And now transitioning down to the Malik Nabers, Joe Burrow conversation, that's a quick way to accelerate a rebuild is by acquiring a star at a discount because he is no longer useful to a team that's trying to compete. Now, the caveat there is it's a very risky play to go and send off all your capital because let's be honest, this Dak Prescott, DJ Moore case is not happening very often. For the most part, I feel like you're going to have to be sending some picks to get a Joe Burrow, to get a Malik Nabers, and they're going to have to be high picks. And if you are giving up, let's say you have no one else's capital of significance, and you got to give up your 2026 first and your 2027 first for Joe Burrow, and you're going to go 2 years without having a first, and then you have to figure out how to go and get that capital, I would not be making that move. You are not in the situation to be leveraging your future for getting one piece. Now, if you have already done that dirty work and you have 2 2026 first, and maybe you have 2 or 3 2027 first, and you got a couple of seconds, and you have plenty of capital, absolutely be going out and actively looking at those kinds of trade offers because that's why you acquire capital. We talked in the rebuilding episode last time a little bit about that, more so on taking advantage of the hype cycle and not necessarily drafting all of the picks you acquire, but cashing in on that value increase and trading some of those picks away. Same thing, but a little bit earlier on in the process where you built some of that capital and you can get a guy like Joe Burrow who is, agnostically better than multiple first round picks.
Yeah, so the other player, Malik Nabers, there's no trades that I could find in the trade finder, which I found interesting, which tells me that people who have Malik Nabers aren't willing to trade him for what the perceived value is right now, which we talked about on previous episodes, probably somewhere down. And I know Emeka Egbuka's hurt now, but probably in that range, like in the 20s to 30, like maybe Tetterell McMillan plus. Like, I feel like that, or Drake London plus, I feel like that's the range where what you could get from Malik Nabers. But, according to Keep Trade Cut, Malik Nabers is at 10, CeeDee Lamb is at 11, and I'll talk about that here in a little bit, trading for some Cowboys. I think you'd probably have to give up a little bit something on top of Malik Nabers to get CeeDee Lamb, but that feels like a match made in heaven, potentially. But I'll just throw out a few trades, and you tell me if these trades make sense. And just like these are the two that stood out to me. So Team A, Daniel Jones, Kenneth Walker, Javonte Williams, and Hunter Henry. And Team B gets Joe Burrow. Is that a smash for the Joe Burrow side? Because I kind of think it is.
That was too many names for me to keep track of.
Okay. One more time. Daniel Jones, Kenneth Walker, Javonte Williams, and Hunter Henry for Joe Burrow. Yeah, I think that's a classic case of somebody just needing depth. Maybe they are winning. It's hard to know without the context of the roster. But if I had to guess, they're trying to stay in the hunt. And yeah, I would take Joe Burrow on that side pretty much every time. What about this one? Baker Mayfield.
Hold on, actually, I do want to expand on that real quick because that's a mistake I feel like a lot of dynasty gamers make. Like they would rather go sell Joe Burrow and try and gather some trash. And Kenneth Walker should be really good. Daniel Jones is playing really well, but you would rather just soft rebuild. Trade away some other veterans that are closer to the peak. Maybe you got Saquon or Derrick Henry on that team. Trade away some more veterans that have a shorter shelf life and start maybe doing a soft rebuild. And maybe you don't win next year either, but instead of getting rid of Burrow and gathering in that depth, try to then maybe just do a soft reset. Just quick turn some capital around. I think that's a smarter decision than taking a low ball on Joe Burrow like that.
Yeah, I agree because you look at all the assets, and I know Daniel Jones is having a phenomenal season, but he's not even in the same stratosphere as where Joe Burrow is. And then you look at the running backs that you get in that deal. Kenneth Walker has not lived up to what we thought he could be, even though, like, I don't know. Seattle just seems hell-bent on giving Zach Charbonnet the ball in the red zone for whatever reason. Javonte Williams, again, on a one-year deal with Dallas. This time next year, he could be playing for God knows who. And as much as we like Hunter Henry, I mean, he's not really a valuable dynasty asset. So all those singular pieces could help you out this year, but in totality, like if you stack them up, I don't think they equal the value of a Joe Burrow. You're just kind of slicing up one elite asset and getting a bunch of okay to good pieces on your team. So I think I'm in agreement with you. This one is interesting, and this one I would actually be on the opposite side of Joe Burrow, but I want to know what you think. Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce for Joe Burrow.
Joe Burrow still.
See, I think that's more of a lateral move than
it's pretty fair.
That's the most fair one that I found, to be honest. But I know Kelsey's probably going to ride off into the sunset after this year, but all of a sudden, Patrick Mahomes is balling out this year, and he's going to get Rashee Rice back. I think that's a smash for the Patrick Mahomes side, to be honest with you. I don't think that there's much of a difference.
His ego play could really help you there, because Patrick Mahomes is in his 2016 Russell Wilson, where, dude, you could just see. It's my hate Mahomes minute right here. You could just see on his face when he does the celebration when he runs. Oh, he loves it. He loves being important. He loves having that camera right in his face when he gets into the end zone. He would rather not throw to a wide open receiver and run it into the end zone for the glory. That's my take on Patrick Mahomes. Totally unbiased. Back to you.
Okay. All righty then. Last one, and this to me, I mean, is getting more and more fair by the day, but I still think I would side with the Joe Burrow side. Baker Mayfield and Deebo Samuel for Joe Burrow.
That's pretty even too. Both of those last two trades, you could probably convince me either or.
Because Baker, I think, is one of those quarterbacks that
Baker's MVP level right now.
Yeah, like Baker is playing out of his mind. Like Baker and Patrick Mahomes. It wouldn't shock me if that's the Super Bowl this year, to be honest with you. I think the Patriots are going to have something to say with that, something to say about that as well. But I mean, Baker Mayfield, he is at quarterback 11, 39 overall. I think that's too low. I think, he's just 30 years old. We know age doesn't matter as much for quarterbacks. And it just kind of feels like, he lost his offensive coordinator. Doesn't matter. He loses all his wide receivers. Doesn't matter. We'll make Tez Johnson work. Well, Tez Johnson will think that the MVP chance are for him because he's a special guy. But no disrespect to Tez Johnson, but that's just kind of funny. All right, we should probably move on. But I think point, I think it's an interesting point that trading for injured players is, I think, risky, but I think you can really accelerate your rebuild if you get the right deal. Like that first deal, I think would be really good. All right, let's move to your first player or point that you would like to make, Mr. Babbage.
Yeah, I'll hit this one pretty quick because it's the obvious, right? Trade away literally any barely useful veteran. So in the past 24 hours, I've traded Mike Evans for a projected early 2027 second and Rachaad White for a mid 2026 third. Rachaad White has an especially short trade shelf life dependent on Bucky Irving's health. So he's a guy that probably should have been on the block last week, still on the block this week. I'm not thinking that Bucky is going to play this week. It doesn't seem like it as of right now. So you still have some time to make that happen, but getting close to the age apex there, a backup, who knows what happens in free agency, but that can go for better or for worse. Take a reroll on a guy like that. Especially with how many injuries are occurring, when now teams are going to be a little bit looser with their second round and later picks to pick up some slack in their lineup, as we saw with trading away guys like Joe Burrow. And Terry McLaurin is another guy that I'd be looking to trade away. It sucks because you would really like to have cashed out on a Chris Godwin at this point in the season with what's been going on with Mike Evans' health, but he hasn't been on the field. Devontae Adams is a guy I would be looking to trade as well. Really any useful veteran that is especially closer to that 30 and up age range, just get them off your roster because you don't want to miss that window and then be sitting there with an asset that was worth a second and is now worth a third. That's a bad feeling.
Yeah, I'll tell you a trade that I made, and I didn't feel great about it. But again, I'm in a rebuild situation where I feel, you have to make some moves. And I traded Devontae Adams for Jerry Jeudy and a 2026 third and a 2026 fourth. So, I get a younger player and I get some picks on top of it. Maybe I could have got more, you could argue, especially now that Puka's banged up. In fairness to me, I made the trade before Puka got injured. But, I think that's one of those examples of, could I have haggled over maybe getting a second instead of a third? Yeah, but the guy wasn't having it. So, it was one of those where I just sent it to all the contenders in the league to see who would be interested, and that was
Judy's going to be on the trade block for Cleveland this year,
or he should be. Yeah,
he should be. And I've seen a matchmaker. This is no rumor, but he was just doing film analysis and talked about how Jerry Jeudy would fit so well, and I agree, in the Falcons offense, who needs some help at receiver. That would be a match made in heaven and would immediately make that trade look so much better for you.
Yeah, that would be nice. And yeah, I would like that. And I do think too, I don't think Jerry Jeudy's a great wide receiver, but I don't think he's god awful either. I think he's a perfectly fine average number 2 wide receiver on a decent to good, to maybe playoff contending team, I would think.
I think he would be putting up numbers in this Cowboys offense right now.
Yeah.
I think he's an above average number 2. I think he's a good number 2.
Yeah, I think that's a fair.
He just hasn't had the opportunity to prove that he's a great number 2, which is not his fault.
Yeah, and yeah, I agree with that. And I'll just add on to that. So trading away your veterans, I think you have to trade Rico Dowdle now if you're if you're a rebuilding team rather. Now, keep trade cut hasn't caught up to him yet. He's at 219, but after back-to-back games of 200 yards rushing, right? I mean,
scrimmage 183 rushing yards.
Okay.
Last week.
Yeah, I mean, some contending team will probably, at the very least, give you a 20, like a rookie third plus something. Maybe you could even get a second for him. And at that price, I think you got to sell. Also, players like Keenan Allen. I would even throw in overachieving players that you could break up into multiple assets, like a Quentin Johnston. At that point, you're playing with fire a little bit, but it just kind of depends on the return. Again, Keenan Allen, let me just look here real quick, is 153 according to Keep Trade Cut. Quentin Johnston is the 70th overall player according to Keep Trade Cut. That is wild. Just for perspective, you could trade Quentin Johnston for Cam Ward straight up right now according to Keep Trade Cut. They are ranked back to back, and I got to be honest with you. If you need a quarterback, Cam Ward's not playing well this year. They fired the head coach. It's a shitty situation. But, the history of quarterbacks taking number 1 overall, they get plenty of opportunities. So even though he's not playing well this year, we could just look at the 6 games he's played with, let's face it, subpar weapons. And now Calvin Ridley's hurt. This is probably going to be a pretty decently long buy window for Cam Ward, but I think he's the exact type of player that you should be taking a chance on if you're a rebuilding team, because there's no doubt that he was more highly valued earlier in the season, especially in rookie drafts where I saw him going anywhere from, the 102 to the 105, somewhere in that range. Maybe he fell to the 106 in Superflex rookie drafts, but yeah, just trading away your veterans for players like that, I think are good moves. I'll throw it back to you, man. What's the next point you want to touch on here? Or what player do you want to throw out?
Compounding on what you said with Cam Ward, so expanding on that, just trade for talented rookies who have bottomed out value. So that's just kind of parlaying right into the point here. Who you're going to try and trade away those vets for? Well, if it's not picks, it's going to be guys like RJ Harvey. It's going to be Caleb Johnson, Cam Ward, Luther Burden, Bashul Tutin. There's plenty of them. Honestly, even I don't love a Dylan Sampson, it just kind of depends on who you're trading away. Like if you're trading away a Kendrick Bourne for a Dylan Sampson, like as a rebuilding team, that's plenty good in my book. Dylan Sampson is way more useful to you than Kendrick Bourne. So there are ways to even, some of the trades are ugly. And we talked about that in our last episode too. But sometimes the ugly wins, just stacking small wins, can be very meaningful. Because, you know, Jerome Ford's gotten some action in this offense. If Quinshon Judkins goes down, Sampson is going to be right back in a big role. So just taking a look at those rookies that have kind of bottomed out value, and potentially even rookies that haven't just fully skyrocketed. I should put Travis Hunter on this list too. I'm buying Travis Hunter, but like Jaxson Dart, I love what I've seen from him so far. And I would be willing to buy a Jaxson Dart if I have veterans and some slight capital that I could be willing to toss aside. I'd rather trade for Dart than Ward. So if you can pay up a little bit more to make something like that happen, I would do that.
I'll add on to your Jaxson Dart point. We're gonna update our dynasty rankings here by the end of the month, or at least I will. And maybe I'll just put Matt Babish on the spot.
Okay.
We will. We are updating our dynasty rankings by the end of the month.
I can do it in 2 weeks. All right.
Okay. All right. I don't want to put any pressure on you, but I think Jaxson Dart is one of these guys that the market is just going to be slow to adjust. You know, on Keep Trade Cut right now, he is in the 40s. I think he's right behind Christian McCaffrey. And I honestly think just the way he runs the volume of the rushes, like in all 3 games he started, he's had over 50 rushing yards. And last week he had 13 rushing attempts. You can't tell me, you know, they're moving the ball with Cam Scadbo. Now they need more weapons on offense. God, if only they could have just kept Malik Nabers healthy, for crying out loud, that would have made me a lot happier. And my fantasy teams would be doing a lot better. They're going to get Malik Nabers back next year. Malik Nabers is a young man. Like, he's a young player. He's going to recover from this, assuming everything goes well. Jaxson Dart, with that rushing upside with Malik Nabers, and hopefully the Giants can do something the Giants don't typically do, which is add on to what they already have. I think Jaxson Dart could be a top 5 quarterback in Superflex as soon as next year. Call me crazy. Just with it, the rush.
That's a little hot. That's a little hot, but I like.
Well, we said the same thing about Drake May, and look at where Drake May is right now. A lot of people thought that was hot.
Drake May is so much better than Jaxson Dart.
Maybe, but Drake May is 17th overall, quarterback 5, right where we thought he might be. So I'm just saying that if he's going to run the ball this much, and maybe that slows down. So I think we need to give it more time, but I'm just saying that's the upside. And right now he is ranked as, the quarterback 13. He's only up 28 spots. Like in Superflex, I cannot believe he hasn't overtaken Bo Nix yet. But anyway, maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm getting ahead of myself here. Maybe I need to just cool it. It's only been 3 games. But again, if you want to take a risk on anybody, take a risk on a young quarterback with rushing upside that's thriving in a situation you don't think that he should thrive in. Yep. You know, like that's
agreed.
That's the ticket right there. Yeah, I completely agree with everything that you said. You know, you want to go after those rookies. I'll throw out a few. Luther Burden, you talked about, Caleb Johnson and Mason Taylor. I have written down as guys. You know, Mason Taylor could cash in as soon as this year. He's had some usable weeks already, but he's ranked 140th according to Keep Trade Cut. Caleb Johnson, there's going to be a long buy window. We've talked about this on this channel before. And Luther Burden, I mean, they rushed DJ Moore to the hospital. Now it's everything that I'm seeing is just precautionary, but after the game, they rushed him to the hospital. So, I mean, if DJ Moore misses a game or two, they might
looking at his kidney.
I don't know. That literally that's all I could find today.
Dang, he might have did he lacerate his kidney?
I don't want to speculate on what it was.
I don't think he would have been able to play through that.
Yeah.
But he was constantly grabbing at his low back. So like something near there had to.
Yeah. The only thing, like I'm looking at it right now.
I didn't realize he even went to the hospital.
according to like a bunch of Bears beat reporters, I think. Oh, here we go. 2 hours ago, Courtney Cronin. This is somebody I trust. Ben Johnson said DJ Moore is back in Chicago after staying overnight at a DC area hospital for evaluation of a groin injury and will take him day by day.
Oh, interesting.
So, I mean, it's possible he misses this game and we get a dose of Luther Burden. And if Luther Burden blows up in this game, it's over. I mean, the buy window is going to be over because he's going to shoot up dynasty rankings because that type of player just skyrockets once they have a good game or two. And he's already had one good game with minimal volume. But anyway, are we ready to shift over to our contenders, Mr. Babich? Or do you have anything you want to add real quick to the
rebuilding just very side? Quickly, not much explanation, just kind of go over the rest of the notes I have because it is kind of self-explanatory. But trade away any age apex running back that doesn't have a hyper secure forward outlook. James Cook, Saquon, DeAndre Swift, Pacheco, whatever you can get. Probably Kyron. He's where the waters get a little muddied. And then Jonathan Taylor would be the exception to where I think he does have a rock solid few years left to where you don't have to be getting rid of him right now. And then Harold Fannin Jr., Marvin Harrison Jr. are two trade targets. Yes, I'm a sicko. I think Kyler's time in Arizona is dwindling. And I think Marvin Harrison Jr. might have had the biggest game of his career on Sunday if he didn't get concussed with the way Jacoby Brissett looked. It's nice seeing a quarterback who's good at throwing the football and reading the field play in that offense. It's crazy how it all just sort of looked like a real offense without Kyler Murray under helm, but I digress. And then trading away Josh Downs, I think he's had a couple of good weeks, and this is a good opportunity to potentially get out of that as I see him being a asset that kind of has that low floor, low ceiling when Warren and Pittman are healthy. So I would be considering that option as well. And that's all I had in my notes.
Yeah, we could really go down a rabbit hole with the Kyler Murray thing because I don't know. I don't agree with you on Marvin Harrison Jr., but that's fine.
If Kyler couldn't run, he would be one of the worst quarterbacks in the NFL.
Oh, that I don't disagree with. I just don't know how Arizona gets out of the contract in the next year or two. But anyway, maybe there's a way. I don't know. All right, let's move to rebuilding team or advice for rebuilding teams and specific things that we're doing. Contending teams. Yeah, you got to walk before you can crawl. Contenders, specific moves that we're making, specific players that we're targeting. And since I started first with the rebuild, Matt Babich, do you want to start first with the contending team advice?
Yeah, so actually, I'll just save some of my single trade targets for the end. So 2 points really quickly. One just kind of compounds on what I said before with rebuilding. Acquire some of those running backs that I listed as sells for the rebuild teams at the age apex. James Cook, Saquon, Kyron, Swift. All those guys I'd be considering buying high on, even like a guy like Kyron with just how much he's going to be used. Blake Corum was hurt. He had that fumble. James Cook, the usage has been up and down, but I think the Bills are starting to realize that when they dominate on the ground, they win games. And when they try and purely play through the air and through Josh Allen, they're struggling because teams are basically saying, we're not going to let you do that. So I think some of that will get more consistent throughout the year. And then acquire handcuff backs that don't cost a lot and could be league winners. There's a long list here, and this is not exhaustive, but Kendre Miller. I know he just had a great game and is probably a little bit value or priced up a little bit, but Kamani Vidal, Tyler Algier, who's a little bit more expensive, but again, has some standalone value. And we just saw what, Bijan was able to do last night. Brian Robinson behind Christian McCaffrey, who has been healthy, but has lost some juice. Tyrone Tracy. Look, Cam Scatabo is he's a bowling ball and just as smart. But if you throw if you throw the memes about him and Jaxson Dart are so funny. It's a picture of them on Twitter and it says, who's stopping this duo? And the examples are like a pull sign on a door. And it's hilarious. But if you throw a bowling ball at a brick wall enough times, eventually it's going to break. And that's the way I feel when watching him play football. Like, there's no way he does not. Maybe he doesn't miss time, but there's no way he doesn't pick up some sort of injury throughout this season. He plays so reckless, which is one thing I kind of love about him. But Tyrone Tracy, with the way this Giants offense is operating, if he gets back into a position where he's going to be getting a high volume of touches, he's going to go back to being a valuable player in fantasy football. Jadon Blue, Miles Sanders is out. Javonte Williams is the only thing stopping him from getting more opportunity. Brashard Smith, and we'll see what the injury with Blake Corum is, but Blake Corum could be another option. Even if you have a deep enough bench, Seth, real quick, what do you think about this? Contenders loading up on their backup running back or their handcuff running back with deep rosters versus shallow rosters. Is it okay for both? Is it more of a deep roster thing? What do you think there?
Yeah, I think it's a good idea, especially with Christian McCaffrey and Brian Robinson. Christian McCaffrey's getting 25 touches a game or something crazy like that. I would be shocked if he holds up throughout the whole year. And then you just want to protect that asset, or at least get 60-70% of the production with a Brian Robinson, potentially if McCaffrey goes down. So yeah, I think you could do that for both. I think that's a good idea. I also think that's actually pretty smart for rebuilding teams too, is getting depending on the format, especially like in one quarterback leagues, it probably makes more sense. I'm probably going out and stashing quarterbacks over running backs in Superflex. But yeah, so I think that makes sense, honestly, for rebuilding teams too, because once the starting running back goes down, then you all of a sudden you've got a good trade chip on your roster.
Yeah, I think it kind of depends on the situation too. Like Kyron and Blake Corum is an interesting one where, damn it, now I can't remember if Kyron got extended or not. I feel like he did get extended.
I think he did.
But if you take a situation where there's a running back that could hit free agency in the next year or two and you have their backup, like that's a situation I could really see. But when you have deep rosters, I think it's always a good play because the people that are on your bench are hilarious at times in deep dynasty leagues. So having a handcuff for a roster spot is always a good idea, in my opinion. Shallower leagues is where you have to, judge it.
Kyron did get extended. He is
okay. That's what I thought. I went into it saying he was going to hit free agency, and thankfully something in the back of my head stopped me and said, I don't think this is correct.
Yeah, he signed through the 2028 season, but there's a 0 dead cap after 2026. So it's essentially a 2-year deal that they could get out of, after 2026. So anyway, my first tip would be this, specific trade targets. I mean, I don't know about you, but I'm going after all of the Dallas Cowboys specifically. I mean, CeeDee Lamb's going to be hard to acquire, but and honestly, his trade window was probably when he was hurt, if you could have taken the hit to your roster. But he's 11th according to Keep Trade Cut, and or ranked 11th overall. I could see him finishing the rest of the year as the wide receiver 1 overall with how terrible this defense is. I mean, they rank number 31 in points allowed. The only other team that's worse is Baltimore, and I suppose Lamar Jackson could come back at some point, but a hamstring injury is not something you want to push for a mobile quarterback, and their seasons, I mean, I would say it's lost, especially considering their defense is terrible. So, I mean, you could go out and get Zay Flowers on the cheap, I suppose. I don't know if I'd go get Derrick Henry right now. I've kind of talked about why I don't necessarily like him as a buy, because I think the Ravens are going to be playing in a lot of negative game scripts, and that isn't really conducive to Derrick Henry, although last week he got over 20 carries. So anyway, I mean, sometimes you just got to feed the beast, I guess. So CeeDee Lamb's probably going to be tough to get, but I mean, Dak Prescott is 60th according to Keep Trade Cut. He's ranked next to Xavier Worthy, AJ Brown. Now he's a quarterback in Superflex, so I get it. He's probably going to be a little bit more expensive, but if you traded Xavier Worthy plus to get Dak Prescott, maybe let's just say you had to throw out a quarterback to go get Dak Prescott, right? I mean, would you trade Kyler Murray plus a second to go get Dak Prescott at this point? I mean, yes. I would. Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know why we do this with Dak Prescott, but I think he has all the upside in the world, especially given the situation. Javonte Williams is another one that I think is going to be super cheap, and he's proven that he is a locked and loaded top 12 option at the position this year. He's 88th according to Keep Trade Cut. I mean, I think you could very easily, in the right circumstance, get RJ Harvey for TreVeyon Henderson straight up. Maybe you don't even need to pay that much for Javonte Williams because he is just on a 1-year deal. So it is kind of like going out and getting a rental player in baseball. Jake Ferguson is another guy at tight end, 99th overall according to Keep Trade Cut. I mean, could you trade like a Mason Taylor or Colston Loveland to get Jake Ferguson? I think you could. I think you could right now. And I think that would be a trade that would benefit both teams, to be honest with you. And I don't know the details of Jake Ferguson's contract, but he's just a solid tight end. Like he's a lot of people poo him because he's not the most athletic guy, but he's just always finds a way to get open over the middle of the field. And I know all of these guys are going to take a hit. Jake Ferguson's probably going to take a hit when CeeDee Lamb comes back, but I think there's more than enough room for all these guys. I'll even throw George Pickens out here. He's probably my least likely player that I'm going to trade for on the Cowboys just because the price I think is really high. He's 51st according to Keep Trade Cut. But I still think that he's going to have some really nice games going forward because this defense is just that terrible. It's just usually I don't do that. Usually I don't target a situation like this, but I think you can do it this year. What do you think?
Yeah, absolutely. So first with Ferguson, I agree with the entire offense. Dak is, we say this every time we talk about Dak, I feel like. He's not even that old for a quarterback. He's got 3 to 4 years left, and he plays at an elite level. This can be the Bengals offense. That's how high-powered it could be because of how bad their defense has been playing. Or they're getting in shootouts every week. And I disagree a little bit on Pickens because I do feel like Lamb and Pickens at 100% when this offense is firing could be Chase and Higgins. That same type of opportunity where they're throwing 40+ times every game. It's a consolidated target share. Now, the thing that would drag them down is Jake Ferguson from that, elite level is Jake Ferguson because of how well he's been playing, particularly in the red zone. One of the guys I really liked coming into the year and I even talked about how much I really loved him this year because of what Pickens can do for this offense, which allows a guy like Ferguson to work so well over the middle of the field, which is exactly what we've been seeing. I got one thing right this year. He is signed through 2029, a potential out in 2027. But if he's playing like this, he's going to be a Dallas Cowboy for a while, and he can block. So that's the other thing too, is they can use Ferguson in all those facets. So I fully agree there with the slight caveat that I am more bullish. I'm willing to buy Pickens for sure. I'm willing to buy really any Dallas Cowboy of note.
All right. I think that covers that one. I'll throw it back to you. What's the next point you want to make? Talk about a player, talk about whatever you want to talk about.
All right. So based on how much we got left, I'm going to try and make it somewhat even in the turns. So I'm going to do 2 players at a time here because the rest I got is just single trade targets. George Kittle. This one's pretty cut and dry. Went out week 1 with a hamstring injury. He was on pace for quite a lot of fantasy points. Went down, caught a touchdown. Only played, I want to say 30% of snaps, roughly. He did not play for very long. And then now coming off IR, Juwan Jennings playing through injuries, Ricky Pearsall playing through injury, coming back, Brandon Ayuk still missing, CMC getting a bunch of touches. Kittle is going to be peppered with targets. This is going to be some of his highest usage I think we've ever seen in his career. So get a guy like George Kittle. His value, because he hasn't been there, the team that has him could be a contending team that just wasn't cut out this year, got a lot of injuries. It could be a team that, was a productive struggle that thought they could turn things around. Doesn't matter. The window is open because he hasn't been there for 5 weeks. The window's open. Trade for George Kittle and Stefon Diggs. You get a little benefit from having a low box score number, even though he had multiple big plays taken away from pretty soft penalties this weekend. Diggs is dialed in, and I did not expect this at all. Maybe it was I don't even think it was my Patriots fandom trying to whittle my expectations, but just coming off an ACL injury at his age, it really seems like the receivers that make their bread and butter off of route winning, him, Keenan Allen, they are less susceptible to those age injury combinations than other receivers may be, because both of them at their age still look very good. And Keenan didn't have an injury last year, but still. So Diggs in this Patriots offense, number one target. Drake May is balling. They can't run the ball to save their life. Maybe it's because they keep running the ball with Ramondre Stevenson. Mike Vrabel and McDonald need to get into a room and talk about, just vent. They need a therapist to get down to the bottom of why they play Zach Charbonnet and Ramondre Stevenson as much as they do. I guess it'd be more Kubiak than McDonald, the one controlling the offense in Seattle, but they need to figure that out. But regardless, Patriots are passing a lot, so Stefon Diggs needs to be on the menu, as he's going to be very usable going forward and is still probably closer to a late second, early third. I don't know if Diggs is going for seconds. He might be. He's really only had like one really big game this year.
I mean, he's ranked 174th according to Keep Trade Cut. So I mean, you could probably throw out a third for him and potentially get him. Like, I'm seeing Jalen Milroe is ranked right next to him. Jalen McMillan, Juwan Johnson, Hunter Henry, Jalen Coker, Rashad White. So yeah, you're talking about third territory according to Keep Trade Cut.
Yeah, like Coker is a good example of a guy who has a promising outlook later in his career that you could trade to a rebuilding team for Stefon Diggs.
Yeah, and Kittle is 94th. He's gone down a little bit. But yeah,
I don't care what the price tag is on Kittle. You go get him.
Yeah, because this offense clearly needs somebody like,
It definitely isn't higher than it was when it started the season.
Yeah, for sure. That leads me into you're going to think I'm sacrilegious, but I think you can, especially if you're a win now team. Now, I'm still, me personally, I am trying to buy TreVeyon Henderson because I find it hard to believe that the Patriots would spend an early second-round pick on a running back that they plan to use as a scat back, like a third down type running back, which at this point, it's almost like they drafted him so the Bears couldn't have him, because it's been widely reported that the Bears would have drafted TreVeyon Henderson with one of those 2 second-round picks that they had. They had pick 39 and 41, and then they ended up trading out of one of the picks. So at this point, the Patriots, they're public enemy number one, if you ask me, because I would love TreVeyon Henderson on the Bears. I mean, they're public enemy number one for 2 reasons. Number one, they're not using him, and number 2, he'd be a lot better on the Bears. Anyway, the way they were run blocking last night, I mean, forget about it. So I think you can trade him away, because his value, even though he's been not used the way he should be, in my opinion, I mean, for crying out loud, Ramondre Stevenson was on the field for 46 of 64 snaps compared to TreVeyon Henderson's 19 of 64 snaps. That tells me that for whatever reason, Mike Vrabel and Josh McDaniels don't want him out there as much as Ramondre Stevenson, even though Stevenson has clear fumbling issues, but whatever, I don't know. And just according to the Seth D-World eye test, TreVeyon Henderson's clearly the better running back, and he reminds me of like a James Cook type running back, that same explosion, maybe not as explosive as, Jahmyr Gibbs, but I just think I don't know. I don't know if it's a playbook thing or if he's dealing with an injury that they're keeping under wraps. I don't know. It's a weird situation at this point for a guy that was so good in college, and the film is so good. I mean, we highlighted it on this channel, like how big of fans we were of TreVeyon Henderson. But and I think this lines up with my point too. Trade for Breece Hall, trade away TreVeyon Henderson for Breece Hall, because I think Breece Hall is still young. And he's number one in explosive run rate per fantasy points date at 12.5%, playing on that god-awful New York Jets offense. And he's likely going to get traded to a better situation. Anything could be better than the Jets right now, because the Jets offense, like we predicted with Justin Fields, I mean, it's almost like we said, yeah, Justin Fields, it might be good while it lasts, and there might be some really insane ups, but man, the downs are going to be bad. And and now he's not going to play the Broncos every week, but that's the Justin Fields experience. And I'm sorry, it's not conducive to multiple people within the offense getting a ton of volume or fantasy production. It just isn't. So yeah, I think I'd be willing to make that move only if I'm a contending team and I'd grit my teeth while I did it. I think CMC is another guy, and I know I've said sell CMC, and I'm still officially like, you should probably get out of CMC only in like specific scenarios where I'm a contending team and I need the rocket fuel that's going to push me over the top. Okay, I think TreVeyon Henderson for CMC makes sense, and only in that scenario. But I personally, I'm not doing it, but I think you can do it. And if you do it, like, go out and get Brian Robinson. Anyway, I hate that I put this on the show sheet. I don't know why I put this on the show sheet, because now I kind of hate that I'm telling people to trade away TreVeyon Henderson. But if you're a win now team, I think he's an asset that hasn't lost a ton of value, and he's a good asset to trade away to get something that's going to help you right now, because clearly, and as soon as this will be the week, Matt, this will be the week where he goes off, because I'm saying this right now. Like, in the biggest TreVeyon Henderson fan in the world is saying trade TreVeyon Henderson in Dynasty on a win now team. Not that this will be the week that he goes insane. But anyway,
it's not going to be the week, because Vrabel's going to get his win at Tennessee, his revenge win at Tennessee. And right now he just does not trust TreVeyon Henderson in high leverage spots. He just doesn't. It's the pass blocking, I think, for the most part.
How many points do you think they win by? 25, 30? I mean, what's the line? I mean,
I think they lose.
You think the Patriots are going to lose?
I don't know. I just don't want to. Everyone keeps talking about the revenge game and how much the Patriots are going to win by. And I just feel like we don't have a good enough team. Like, we're good. We're playing really good football right now, but we're missing so many pieces. I just feel like it's way too early to start talking about the Patriots like this team of, oh, how many 20, 25 points. We just beat the Saints by 6. We just beat the Saints, Spencer Rattler and the Saints by 6. Yeah. Do not put anything past us. But no, I realistically, I think we win by about 7. The
7.5 is the line. So feels about right. But
I literally, to hedge my happiness, I will probably be placing a bet on Tennessee Titans money line. But anyway, 3 receivers here as trade targets. I'm gonna do 3 different categories of receiver, 1 for each. Stefon Diggs belongs in this first category, who I already said, of older receivers who just haven't been popping enough to be hyper valued, but have been pretty reliable. And the other one is DK Metcalf. So as much as nobody cares about Aaron Rodgers, I may have been a little bit wrong about DK Metcalf. I was so far out on him, and granted, a lot of this has been, from scoring 4 straight touchdowns, but he has had 0 games under 10 fantasy points. He's had 23.6 and 19.5 PPR fantasy points in the last 2 weeks, wide receivers 7 and 10. He has 3 games over 80 receiving yards. Like I said, 4 straight touchdowns. Aaron Rodgers is kind of slinging the ball a little bit. I don't like it. I do feel like this Pittsburgh team is a bit fake. But you look at their schedule going forward, they have the Bengals, they have the Colts, they have the Bengals again, they have Baltimore, they have Chicago and Buffalo, who have both shown their issues. They have the Chargers, who have shown the susceptibility to big plays through the air. They have Miami, who's been getting shredded. They have Detroit, who can give up big plays through the air. Cleveland, that's literally every single game besides Green Bay throughout the rest of the season. So there are plenty of opportunities for DK Metcalf to shine. And he's a guy where, if they can figure out the quarterback situation next year, whether it's Rodgers or somebody else, has some value going into next year. If it's Rodgers again, I'd probably trade Metcalf away after this year. But Metcalf, I think, is a good look. A underage apex, I guess he's only a year younger, is Devonta Smith, but a receiver who is on a struggling offense that right now, I mean, the value of A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith relative to where they came in at last year is pretty floored. I mean, Devonta Smith has 4 games this year out of 6 under 10 fantasy points per game, but the usage is still there. 6 targets, 9 targets, 10 targets, 5 targets at 4 of the last 5 weeks. This offense is struggling. They need to be able to pass the ball to open up this offense for both the passing game and Saquon Barkley. And whether it's through firing their offensive coordinator and figuring it out, some way, shape, or form, this Eagles offense is going to come back to life. We've seen it happen. I don't have him this year in my redraft league. I have him in a dynasty league, but I've had Jalen Hurts for quite a long time in fantasy. I've seen this movie before, seemingly the past 4 years in a row, where they start off sluggish, they lose, and this year they've been winning, but sometimes they lose games that they should win, all the news cycle, and then they'll go out. They're going to have a game where A.J. Brown will have over 100 and a touchdown. Devonta Smith will have over 100 and a touchdown, and things will just kind of course correct. So I'm down on throwing some capital at Devonta Smith, who does have some pretty juicy matchups going forward. Giants, Lions, Cowboys, Bears, Chargers, Raiders, and Commanders, and Buffalo in week 17, which again, they can be beaten through the air. And then lastly, just a low value receiver who probably just doesn't have that much value outside of this year, but was performing well with Malik Nabers in the lineup, and that's Wan'Dale Robinson. He's getting the majority of the targets, and Jaxson Dart is going to be able to succeed in this situation. It's very clear that he's going to be able to succeed. And Wan'Dale Robinson, I think we probably didn't give him enough credit just based on what had happened in between his rookie year and now. He's a good receiver, man. He's not going to be a world beater. He's 5'8", 185. He's got some limitations, but just like he did last week, he can go off for 684 and a touchdown almost any given week in this offense. And again, some good matchups going forward. So I like all three of those receivers as trade targets.
Yeah, those are all great names. I think you're also you're getting production now, but I think you're also buying low on a lot of those guys too. So I love that, especially Wan'Dale Robinson. I mean,
he's 24, by the way. Like, isn't that kind of blows your mind?
It's, I don't, in this society, man, that we live in, that's instant gratification. Like in Dynasty, you can take advantage of people who just give up on players too soon, and like he's only 24 years old and he's 145th on Keep Trade Cut. Like you could trade. Like
it's higher than I thought it would be.
It's still pretty low.
Man. It is still pretty low. It's higher than I thought it would be. I thought he'd be closer to Diggs.
Yeah, I mean, you could trade Ollie Gordon for him straight up right now, according to Keep Trade Cut. Yeah.
Ton.
I don't know if that is, I don't know if that's possible or not, but you never know. The last player I'll throw out there is a win now team that I think is an asset that you can trade away. And I was never really in on the Matthew Golden experience. I don't have much of him in Dynasty. And it's not really that I didn't like the player. Now, I was suspicious of him rising up really fast throughout the process. And whenever that happens, me, get off my lawn, old curmudgeon Seth over here just has to ask the question, why is this happening? And is it because we saw a few too many just highlights of Matthew Golden? And then, the Packers took him in the first round and everybody got excited and assumed, oh, this situation would be great. And now the Packers are doing what the Packers always do with their wide receivers, which is very similar to what teams like the Bills do with their wide receivers. Hell, outside of Rashee Rice, you could say the Chiefs. The Chiefs typically have that one guy, their go-to guy, and then a lot of it's rotational guys outside of that. And that's kind of what it looks like this year for Matthew Golden. And I would be open to trading him, especially where he is on Keep Trade Cut, which he's 80th overall on Keep Trade Cut. And at that value, you can get somebody that could really help your dynasty team. And I don't know if it's possible or not. I don't necessarily agree with this ranking. I would have the quarterbacks much higher in my own rankings, but he's currently ranked ahead of Michael Penix, Daniel Jones, and Trevor Lawrence. So if you need help at quarterback, I think that's a fine option. I also think that there's a wide receiver that's ranked 6 spots below him in Chris Olave that I would, if you need a win now piece, Chris Olave is getting a boatload of targets every week, granted from Spencer Rattler, who's really not playing as bad as you would think that he, should be playing. But I think Chris Olave is a good buy in Dynasty. And then you kind of scroll down and then you see your guy, some of these players we've already mentioned, like Jake Ferguson and George Kittle, if you need a tight end. I just think there are so many options, and you can easily convince another team, hey, here's Matthew Golden, this nice shiny rookie that isn't producing now, but you could sell them on him potentially producing as soon as this year because he has the first round draft capital. And I don't necessarily think the ceiling is as high as most people think it is. But what do you think?
I agree. I don't think it's necessarily the player as much as it is the system, which is just Jordan Love spreads it around a lot. I do think Matthew Golden is talented and could be used very differently and much more beneficial to his personal strengths and his fantasy outlook. But that's not the reality we live in. So I'm open to trading. They are apparently excited for Christian Watson to come back too. So it's like, okay, what happens to Golden's using, because he's been getting a lot of deep targets. So what happens when Christian Watson comes back on the field? Who knows? But yeah, I'm there with you.
Yeah, and I think that's going to wrap up this episode. Let us know your targets, both for a rebuilding team and a contending team. Let us know some of the trades you made. Let us know what questions you have about trades. We'd love to answer them. We get back to every single comment in the chat. You could also head to our Discord. We're trying to start that up. It's not really that busy right now, but if we get a question in our Discord, I promise you we will answer it. So we're trying to drive people over there as well. Check out our Discord. Matt Babich, any final words of wisdom for the people tonight before we wrap up the episode?
So I'll leave you with one more trade target, both for rebuilding and contending teams, and that is Woody Marks. He followed up his breakout game against Tennessee with a measly 2 points against Baltimore, but in a 44-10 win that was pretty comfortable starting in the mid-second quarter. And they let kind of Nick Chubb go throughout the rest of that game. So, and then the bye week, and then they come out and have a decent schedule going in 4 out of the next 6 weeks. Get Woody Marks. Mixon is nowhere to be found. It's going to be him getting a lot of opportunities to close out this season.
Good advice. I like Woody Marks quite a bit. I think he's at this stage in his career a more talented running back. Now, there's some reporting out there that say the Texans only think he's a third down running back, but we all know how that goes. If you do well on third downs, that leads to opportunities on first and second down, especially when Nick Chubb is not as good as he once was. So anyway, good stuff there. Let us know what you think in the comments. Click like, click subscribe. Go follow us on Twitter at Babich_Matt10, at Seth_DIEWOLD, at FF Dynasty Table. That's going to do it for us. Nobody cares about Aaron Rodgers. I don't care how good he's doing this year. He's not going to no Super Bowl. I know that. Chase Brown, maybe he does stink. We'll see you next time, everybody. Have a great night, evening, whatever day you're in, part of your day. Make it a great one, and we will see you later.